Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the M Word. I'm Robin, I'm the technical director here at Man and Machine, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. During today's session, what I really want to go through is one of the, I'm going to say, newer tools inside of Inventor. It's one of those like it or hate it. It's a bit like Marmite. I really like it. I think it's a really useful set of tools that actually helps you massively downstream. Some people don't like it because it's very different, but we're talking about model-based annotation. Model-based annotations allow you to add dimensions, leaders, things like that directly onto your 3D model within your part or assembly environment. And then once you've added them, you can see them directly inside of your part, turn them on or off as you see fit. But you've also got the ability to then reuse them on your drawings and just pull them onto your sheets rather than having to create dimensions from scratch. So I really like them. I'm a big fan. I'm going to show how the functionality works and show how to reuse them on a drawing. So hopefully that will give you some productivity boost, a tip or a trick or what have you. Don't forget to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and go and check out our other content. We have a whole plethora of different videos on our YouTube channel, from short, quick tips and tricks like what we're showing today, through to an individual workflow, industry-specific information, or even fully blown hour-long demonstrations of a product, and some free training as well. So check that out and let us know what you want to see. These sessions are all the better when you guys give us feedback, leave us some commentary, get in touch over LinkedIn, and let us know what you want to see. Let us know what you're struggling with, what feature you want us to focus on, and we can make these as specific as you, our audience and loved viewers, would like. Just let us know and reach out. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and shrink myself down into the corner of my screen. And I'm just going to start a new file for the purpose of this. We'll focus on a simple part. Typically, Inventor is throwing my dialog boxes onto separate screens, which I can already tell is going to drive me mad today. So we'll focus on a part. This functionality will work part, assembly. It doesn't matter. The functionality is there in both of them. But I'll keep it simple. We'll go with a simple part. We'll draw it up from scratch so that you can follow me along on the process. And you can see how model-based annotation works. Whilst Inventor is having some sort of hissy fit, I'm not sure why it's taken so long to load a new part. I would just explain that anyone that's using a step export, step also supports the model-based annotations. So if you're adding model-based annotation to your files and you export them into a step format, step viewers and step importers can use those and bring those into those third-party applications as well. So whilst the use case, if you like, or the benefit I'm going to focus on here inside of Inventor, if you're using steps as an output, you can get this information saved within that step file, which is really, really cool. So let's just create a simple shape. And I want something that I can show you, I guess, two different parts. So let's start with something fairly boxy and fairly square and show you the overall functionality that we're looking at with model-based annotations. And then I'll show you some slightly different workflows as well. So I'm going to create a new sketch. I'm just going to go on the top plane here and just go ahead and create a really simple center point rectangle. And I'm just going to place it down. I'm not overly fussed about the size of this. So you can see that I'm purposely placing it without any dimensions, nice and flexible. And I'm just going to extrude, not revolve. I'm going to extrude that up a given amount. Again, I don't really care for the purpose of this. I'm just going to do it by eye. And there I have my simple box shape. And then looking up on my ribbon, what you'll see is the third tab along, we have Annotate. And this is where all of our model-based annotation tools are kept. And again, if you look all the way to the right-hand side, you can see that we purposely have 3D PDFs, DWF export, external CAD export, and shared views. And that's really showing you the real benefit of pushing these model-based annotations, because they're allowing you to tell a story within the 3D model and share the design intent within the 3D space rather than relying on that 2D drawing. We're not focusing on tolerance analysis today. Maybe that's one for a later date where we can come and look at the tolerance analysis tools. So we're going to skip those. But what I want to focus on is these areas here, our general annotation and our notes. So first things first, I can place dimensions directly in 3D. To do that, you go ahead and choose the dimension that you want to place. I'm just going to use the general dimension tool. And the first one that you place within any given file, it's going to ask me what standard are you using. And much like within your sheets, this will link to your design data in Inventor, and it will drive a standard against those dimensions that you place. I'm just going to link this to the default ISO standard and press OK. At this point, if you get stuck, just look to the very bottom left of the Inventor window, because it does prompt you quite nicely to what it's looking at doing. But essentially, it's looking for a selection. And you'll note that I can select anything from an edge, a face. I can even get in here and I think, can I select a point? No, I'm lying. So you can select an edge or a face in the model. And what I want to do is I want to do left to right. So I'm going to go and select my left hand face, spin it around, and then select my right hand face. What Inventor will then do is it will place the dimension on my mouse just like in a drawing, and I can specify where I would like that dimension to be placed. This is using an annotation plane, and I can change that on the right click menu. If you want to go ahead and choose a different annotation plane, you can choose either select annotation plane or click any plane holding shift down on your keyboard. You can also use the change to next candidate plane or indeed press the space bar to get Inventor to give you different relevant or necessary options for that. I'm going to choose to place this a nondescript height above my model like so, and I'm going to click my mouse to place the dimension down. You can see, just like on a drawing, that that dimension when selected has given styles associated to it, so you can choose what kind of dimension is being placed. And we also have the ability to come in here and type in any overridden text or individual text that we want to. So you can come in and really control this to the nth degree. I'm going to add a second dimension. This time I want to go from the bottom to the top. And again, I can come down and choose to place that on any one of the work planes that I have in my model. And I can click to place that down. Once again, changing the type or adding any dimension text or symbols that I deem necessary. Finally, we're going to go in and add a front to back dimension, like so. Once again, I can come in and choose how that's placed, choose the work plane that you want to place those dimensions on, and press the tick to add the dimensions. So those dimensions are now placed, albeit very messily from my perspective, onto my model, and I can see them in 3D space. Now, one of the big annoyances or frustrations that we have with people trying to use these tools is they don't like what's on the screen right now. They don't like the fact that there's a dimension smack bang in the middle of the screen. We can really easily control that using the annotations folder on the left hand side within our browser. That allows me to grab an individual dimension, right click it, and I have a number of different controls. We can change to a different annotation plane. We can change the precision of that annotation. We can also go in and change arrowheads, edit the text, or just, quite frankly, turn that dimension off and on. You can also do that on the entire annotations folder and hide and show all annotations very quickly at the press of a button. That's also drivable using iLogic for any of you automation geeks out there. I'm one of those. Or, you can leave them on. It's completely up to you. But we've got some real benefit of having them on as we need them. As well as placing bog standard annotations like a dimension, we can also start placing things like text, notation, and leaders. For instance, I can place leader text. I can grab any selection for an anchor point, come off and start placing again with an alignment plane my leader. This will then open good old Inventor's format text box, and I can say this is a lovely base. And I can press OK. Again, you can link parameters to that. At any point, we can go in and double click to open that back up. I can link to model parameters. I can link to finish parameters, and I can control anything that is on that particular base. Once again, just like the drawing, anyone that's used to using those, you can come in and add them really quickly and really easily. I've just gone into my iProperties there and updated my center of gravity and mass to pull that annotation note across. And again, we can take it off just as quick as we can turn it on, like so. The great thing about these is if I just save this model away, I'm just going to save it on my desktop so it's nice and easy to find. If I go ahead and create a new drawing of that particular file, standard DWG is fine. When I go into the drawing environment and choose to place some views, so I want a front view of my model, I want a side view of my model, and I want an ISO view of my model. Maybe I want the ISO view to be shaded, so I can go ahead and shade that view. And from here, I can basically go to annotate, and I can choose to retrieve annotations from my model. There's actually two ways of doing this. I'm doing it with the model-based annotations, but you can also do it with the sketch as well, which I'll show you shortly on a slightly different file. From here, I can choose to pull 3D annotations from this view. I can then select the individual dimensions that I want to grab, and I can press OK. That allows me to bring those dimensions in. They are converted to drawing dimensions, and I can work with them as I see fit. Even the leader has been converted to a drawing leader. Once again, I can delete those from the model if I want to. Retrieve model annotations on this view and grab this 3D annotation and drag it down like so. All of the standard tools that you would expect will work on those. So I can grab my dimensions and use them with the arrange tool as if they were any other standard dimension on an Inventor drawing. Really nice functionality, and actually it just works really well. Again, I really like it. I'm a big fan of how it works. I think it saves a lot of time. And it's also parametric and live like you would expect inside of Inventor. So if I go back to my original sketch and I start being a bit more specific with regards to the dimensions on my sketch and make this, no, not 35, that'll be a little bit too small for this example. 350 in width by, let's say, 290 in depth. And then let's change my extrusion here to be 340. You'll notice that these all update according to my dimensions. And of course, yes, then the dimensions on my drawing will all update as necessary. It also works with sheet metal. So if I start a sheet metal component and start coming in and placing a face, let's just go with a bog standard face on here. Not overly fussed with the size of this one. So let's just make a rather large rectangle. Let's face it. Maybe I'll just change my sheet metal default to be a little bit thicker so we can see what's going on. Let's have a flange on there. And then let's add a hem to the top of that so that it's rolled over on itself. Much like with the standard 3D model, I can go to annotate, and as well as adding our dimensions, choosing our standard and saying I would like to dimension from this face to this face along there. I can also choose to place notes. So I can come on and start adding individual notes and general notes to this. So I can grab a general note. What has happened to my screen there? Bizarre. And we can start adding notes to the different aspects of this file. If I go and add a hole to this component using the hole tool, place a hole in the middle there, and say just a 5mm hole. I can come in and start adding hole and thread notes to this, choosing the hole and placing it on like that. Again, if the hole updates, let's make that a tapped hole. Click OK. You can see the thread notes and the hole notes update according to what you've placed in the model. So you've got some really nice functionality there. And again, that is all transferable onto the drawing. If you really like the functionality, but you're still, unsure about placing these in the model, again, the fact that they're there fully supports 3D PDF output, which is fantastic. Again, why try and get someone to understand a 2D drawing when you can export a 3D PDF directly from Inventor, choose what it is that you're exporting. I'm going to leave everything as default. This will create me a fully fledged 3D PDF that will support those annotations on export. This is going to use a fairly default template here, but these are fully customizable. You can choose how the templates work, what they do and when they do them based on the defaults that come with Inventor. You just grab a copy and change the templates to your company's or organization's requirements. And the ability to share that design intent along with the 3D view, sometimes, certainly for more complicated detail, really gives you a nice understanding of exactly what's going on. If I enable my multimedia 3D content in this individual file, you can see here that we have our 3D PDF sat in Adobe. It's pulled out my metadata on the right hand side. I have a 3D isometric view that I can rotate around inside of Adobe with my full annotation markup. I also have my front view, my top view, my right view, so on and so forth, all generated from that PDF. Again, nice functionality, quite underused, so certainly one to check out. Finally, if you like what we're getting at, okay, I can save some time with my annotations, but I don't really like the idea of placing the annotations or the dimensions on my 3D, just reuse your sketch dims. So let's create a sketch. Let's go onto a front view. Let's place down a line, which will make a center line. And we'll do a simple disk revolve. So let's not worry too much about the overall size. Let's go ahead and place some basic geometry that goes to the right, down a little bit, along to the left. We'll gesture an arc at the end there, make that tangential, and then we'll finish off our profile. From there, I'm going to dimension the center here. I'm just going to round everything up just to keep this easy. Let's make that a 10 mil hole. Let's then grab this distance here and we'll make that 75 millimeters. The distance from here to here, I'm going to make 95 millimeters. Overall thickness of this disc, I want to be maybe, 6. And then maybe an overall length of the disc itself with a diameter of about 300. I can use those dimensions, yes, to define my sketch, which will then in turn define my part. However, if I save that onto my desktop and create my drawing from that component, going once again into my default template, when I start placing that information down, I can reuse it by saying annotate, retrieve dimensions, clicking the view, and then selecting the features that I want to use my dimensions for. Clicking the view, selecting the features. What this is doing is it's using the dimensions that I've placed within my sketch. And if they're relevant to the view that I'm looking at and the orientation that I'm looking at, it will give me those annotations directly on my drawing, and I am able to use those for free automatically without having to place the dimensions one by one. So it doesn't matter whether, okay, I like the idea and the concept of making my drawing production slightly faster. Let's reuse some dimensions. But you're not too keen on filling your 3D model with dimensions. My argument to you is just turn them off. You don't have to see them. But the fact that they're there, you've placed them once during your design. You've got the design intent captured. You can share that with a 3D file, whether that's a DWIF, a 3D PDF, or a step. More importantly, you can reuse them on your drawing and save yourself time. If you still don't like that with the dimensions turned off, use your sketch dimensions. Sketch and feature as per normal, and then on your drawing, use retrieve model annotations and go ahead and grab it using sketch or feature dimensions. Hopefully that saves you some time. And again, for those automation geeks among us, you can also drive all of that functionality inside of iLogic, including the placement of the annotations in the first place and the extraction of those annotations onto your 2D drawings. So some really nice functionality that hopefully gives you something that saves you a bit of time. And that wraps up today's session. So only a short one today. So I'm going to give you 9 minutes back of your afternoon. But thank you very much for joining us. Next week, I've got my construction hat back on. And we're going to be looking at a really cool product called Enscape. Enscape makes rendering really, really easy. One-click rendering almost from Revit. But what we're going to try and do in the half-an-hour session next week is have a file inside of Revit. Yes, get a decent render out pretty quickly, but spend a little bit of time tweaking the textures, adjusting the materials, creating some walkthroughs, and hopefully getting something that looks pretty darn good with a very short space of time. We might only do a room and maybe the exterior of that room, so we will be a bit pushed for time, but join us then, and we look forward to having you. As always, give us some feedback. Let us know what you want to see next time. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.